I've been thinking about doing this video for a while now, but haven't had the confidence to do it. I'm not even sure how to formulate it, and probably will get a lot of SHIT from either the science or the mathematics community, if any of them are watching. All I know is that I have to make this video. I felt a little bit more confident when I was watching a video, an interview with Dr. Vafa on string theory. He said something very interesting. That's something that has been circulating in my mind forever. So that is what gave me the confidence to make this video. It may or may not make sense to anybody, but I just know that I have to record this. Last night when I was watching Dr. Vafa's interview about string theory, he brought up a few points that I've been thinking a lot about lately for the past years. One of them being that how the role of scientists is not what you may think traditionally for us to just be sort of scientific. He also brought up the notion of being philosophical about it. And the mashup of philosophy and science that he brought up, or at least the way he explained it, really spoke to me. It was resonating with me, because that is something that I think that once you at least embark on the path of science, you need to have that sort of I want to call it the bravery of a scientist, to be brave enough to also bring up those more fundamental questions that we don't necessarily are able to at the moment find answers to from science perspective. Because if you think about it, whenever we look back to science, a lot of things that we know today, and we know certain things for certain, once we look back maybe 50, 100 years ago, the scientists back then were quite sure that what they knew was certain, but today we know that that was not the case. It was not because they were stupid or anything, it was just because they did not have the tools or the evolution of technological advancement that we have today. So it then begs the question whether the knowledge that we have today as scientists, how much, first and foremost, can we rely on them? And secondly, the things that we think that we're able to prove, how certain can we be of them? I'm still consider myself as a scientist. I do not want to go into this wishy-washy conversations that a lot of people seem to have, and in fact I'm not even interested in that. I still want to keep things scientifically, but at the same time I want to honor those moments where I have these fundamental questions, knowing that maybe during my lifetime I will never be able to answer them, which, by the way, it really bugs me, it really irritates me, but it is what it is, because a lot of the technological advancement that we would like to have, we don't have yet. Having said that, and while I want to honor the scientific part of me, I also feel like I need to honor this other side of me, and that is when you get these ideas and then you sort of initiate those type of research. And one of them is in fact what I wanted to share with you guys today. So I think a couple of months ago I was just taking a walk, and then, as I'm sure you know, most of my research is in regards to human frequencies, more specifically brain waves, oscillations, alpha, beta, gamma, etc. And because of that, I'm also very interested in quantum biology, because I think that the physical biology lacks a lot of explanation when it comes to the human body and how everything works. Another thing I wanted to mention is that if we look at some of these scientific findings, be it psychology, when it comes to brain, etc., some of the theoretical framework that we're still working on today, they were actually developed 50, 100 years ago. And if you also look at those scientists, they were not very diverse in terms of the type of scientists that they had. And so that begs the question, first of all, why do we keep trying to prove what they were proving? And second of all, how trustworthy are those findings? I'm not negating any of them. I'm just questioning the fact that a lot of us scientists might turning the wheel, and some of us do want to get out of the box and ask, and some of us don't. Which brings me back to our knowledge today from what we know, or what we think we know, from the brain and the human biology for that matter, and the fact that a lot of our findings pertain to just the physical aspect, not so much this sort of non-physical aspect. When it comes to brain, we call the non-physical brain waves. When it comes to the body, it's all the frequency and cellular frequency and the things pretty much that we can't see, but that they exist. And so I think quantum biology is trying to answer some of those questions, and I love it. I love it for that. I'm not a quantum biologist, I'm a neuroscientist, but for me, that is the part that is very interesting. And so let me go back to what I was trying to say earlier, is that one of those thoughts was the fact that mathematics, a lot of things that we know today, they are based upon our current knowledge of mathematics, and then physics, brain, cognitive psychology, etc. But as I was listening also to Dr. Vafa, when he was talking about string theory, he was actually talking also about the history where some scientists started even questioning the mathematics. Now, I'm not a person who question. I don't have enough what's the word? enough confidence to start questioning. In fact, I wished I had a little bit more confidence, but I don't. But there are intuitive sort of things that I think about, philosophical, if you will, and that was one of them. One of the most fundamental, for example, that we know today off of mathematics is 1 + 1 equals 2. However, if you think about it more deeply, when it comes to this non-physical aspect of human being, if you think about the fact that we have a thought, and that thought combined with an action creates something, if you think of it that way at the fundamental level of how the human thought and human body exist, then 1 + 1 equals 2 doesn't make any sense. In that case, it has to be 1 + 1 equals 3, because then it would be the fact that you have a thought, you combine that with an action, whatever that case is, and then you create. And if you also go back to the fundamentals of humanity, that is creativity, then 1 + 1 equals 3 makes much more sense. But a lot of these theoretical sort of thoughts that we have around what science should be and what not, we don't have actually all the tools to be able to prove things scientifically. But nonetheless, reflecting back to what some of these scientists are actually saying is that partly scientist, partly philosopher, I strongly believe that those type of science is needed, because else science is just reinventing the wheel, or at least I should say not reinventing the wheel, but going through the same methodology over and over again. But I think that part of the evolution of humanity is for us to sort of think a little bit outside and then try to prove those. Whether we can prove it or not, that's I'm not sure about that. But anyways, questioning some of these fundamentals, I think it's that's all I had for today. Think about it. We need more scientists, especially female scientists, to enter this world. But also we need to, while we're doing our scientific work, sort of give ourselves permission to think a little bit crazy, be a little bit crazy. I guess that's how scientists in the 60s, I was told, were doing stuff, and they called them hippies, but a lot of times actually they were especially when it comes to quantum mechanics, it turns out that some of their theories were right. And of course, history also shows that when we have these crazy theories, at their time, those scientists are being ridiculed. But then after a while, when the tools evolve, then it turns out that it was actually some truth to some of the intuitive findings that they had. Thanks so much for listening. I'll share next with you about the upcoming documents and work that I'm doing that has to do with brainwaves and music. And then I know that some of you were interested, so I'll talk a little bit more about that. Thanks.